And the harbour crowd is calling from the old port to the oval. We will follow one and all. We'll talk the wins and losses, every player, every spark. Raise your voice for Fremantle. You're listening to Wharf.
Welcome back to Wharf Talk. I'm JB. Fremantle beat the Western Bulldogs on Friday night by 37 points, and I want to be honest with you up front, it was one of the most boring things I've ever enjoyed this much. 11-12, 78 to 5-11, 41, and on paper that's a comfortable win. In the flesh it was a slow motion smothering. Fremantle didn't blow the Dogs away. They bored them into submission, marked them half to death, and politely walked off with a top two finish. Let me explain, because the way they won is more interesting than the fact that they did. Start with the plan the Bulldogs brought. They flew to Perth with one idea: flood every number, back behind the ball, clog the corridor, and turn the whole thing into a wrestle in a phone box. Make it ugly, make Fremantle impatient. And for a half, it worked a treat. The first quarter was, and I mean this as a statement of fact, almost unwatchable. 10 minutes before anyone kicked a goal, Fremantle had all the ball and nowhere to put it. It took Luke Jackson, of all people, flying over a pack at the second attempt after a Dudley shank turned into a handy little grubber to finally break the seal after 22 minutes. Cooper Hines snuck one back for the Dogs late, and Freo took a 1 point lead into the break, having had 15 inside 50s to 6. 15 to 6 and a 1 point game. That tells you everything about how the Dogs wanted this to go. The second quarter is where it got spicy in two different ways. First, the footies, because it briefly turned into an actual shootout. Treacy adjusted to the flood, stopped trying to bully it, and started leading into the space the Dogs were leaving, and marked his first. Matthew Johnson answered a Bulldogs goal with an absolute howitzer from the centre bounce, and then it got feisty. Caleb Serng tackled Ed Richards holding the ball right in front, slotted the goal, and while he was doing it, a proper stink broke out behind the play. Mason Cox in the middle of it, Tom Liberatore in the middle of it, and Patrick Voss, our own Patrick Voss, with Michael Selwood pinned on the deck, giving him a few forearms to remember him by. Now, the match review office might have a look at that one, and they might also have a look at an Andrew Brayshaw tackle late in the same quarter where he pinned Richards' arm and drove him into the turf, and it led straight to a Bulldogs goal. I'm not going to sit here and guess at weeks for either of them. If they look at one, they look at both. One each way, and we move on, because the Dogs did respond. Riley West and Rory Lobb kicked late goals, and the scores were level at half-time. Genuinely level. 4 goals, 5 apiece, and if you're a Bulldogs fan, that's exactly the game you flew across the country hoping for. Here's where it turns, and here's the part I find quietly hilarious. Fremantle didn't win the second half by lifting the intensity and blowing the game open. They won it by being tidier than the other team could stand. The third quarter produced 2 goals, both to Fremantle, and both were gifts. Rory Lobb marked 35 out, decided against the simple option, went looking for a clever centering ball and dished it straight to nobody. Erasmus pounced, hit Treacy, goal. Then late in the term, Sam Davidson, under a bit of heat in defence, tried a little square kick across his own back line and put it directly onto Caleb Serong's chest. Thank you very much. Goal. That's how you beat a flood, by the way. You don't batter it down. You wait for the 15th disciplined kick in a row to finally pull one defender out of position, or you wait for a tired team playing a high-risk game to make the mistake that a tired team playing a high-risk game eventually makes. Fremantle took a 14-point lead into the last, and you could feel the Dogs' legs going. The fourth quarter was the reward for all that patience. Treacy climbed over 3 opponents for a contested mark and goaled early, and that was the one that finally broke their spirit. 19 points, and the flood just sort of dissolved. Voss, Dudley off a lovely Switkowski kick, Bolton and Jackson again. 5 goals to 1 in the term. The Dogs got a late one to Riley Sanders for their trouble, and that was that. 7 goals to 1 after half-time. Death by 1,000 marks, and that is not a figure of speech. Fremantle took 136 marks in this game. 136. The Bulldogs took 78. That is the entire story of the night in one number. Now let me give you this stat line that I think is genuinely fascinating, because it should not add up to a 37-point win. The Bulldogs won the contested possessions 128 to 108. The Bulldogs won the clearances 37 to 29. They won the hard ball, and they won it at the coalface, and they had 51 1-percenters to Fremantle's 37. That's the flood right there. A team throwing bodies and spoils and desperation at everything that moved for a half. By every measure of who fought harder for the footy, the Bulldogs won this game. And they lost by 37 because Fremantle beat them on the only things that actually put the ball through the big sticks, on 136 marks to 78, disposal efficiency of 82% to 72, and inside 50s 54 to 38. The Dogs won the fight. Fremantle won the football. One little nuance in there I love. Fremantle won the hit-outs 41 to 27. So Luke Jackson and Mason Cox got on top of Tim English at the actual ruck contest. But the Dogs won the clearances anyway because they were sharper at ground level once the ball hit the deck. Freo won the tap, lost the crumb, and it still didn't matter because none of the Dogs' clearance work ever became a score. You can win every ruck contest and every clearance and still lose by 6 goals if you can't hit a target inside 50. That's the lesson of the night for the Bulldogs, and it's a brutal one to the players. And Josh Treacy has to go first because he brought up his 100th game and then went and won it. 3 goals, 8 marks, and every one of them contested and awkward, and exactly what that flooded forward line demanded. Nobody made presenting in a clogged forward 50 look harder or more valuable. A genuinely great milestone game. Oscar McDonald was superb at the other end. 22 touches, 12 marks and 495 metres gained, just intercepting and mopping up and starting everything with a clean kick. On a night that was all about precision, he was the most precise man on the ground. Sarong, 17 disposals, 7 clearances and 2 goals, both at big moments. Carl Warner drove them from half-back. 28 disposals and 600 metres gained, which is a monster number for a defender. And Luke Jackson, I'll say it again, won the ruck battle and kicked 2 goals doing it. But the milestone story I really like is Hayden Young, who also brought up his 100 on the way back from illness and got handed the Bontempelli job. Marcus Bontempelli, the man who single-handedly kept the Dogs in the last 2 meetings, who we spent the entire preview episode saying was the one reason not to guarantee this result. 20 disposals, no goals, 2 tackles. Young beat him. The scariest player on the park was quietly, professionally shut off, and a bloke playing his 100th game did it. For the Dogs, credit where it's due, Ed Richards was enormous. 26 disposals, 9 clearances, and a game-high 752 metres gained. He did absolutely everything except get it to somebody who could kick a goal. Tom Liberatore fought all night, 28 disposals and 6 clearances. And Cooper Hines was their best avenue to goal with 2, which tells you plenty about how much they missed Naughton and Waitman. Alex Pearce dislocated a finger flying into a pack in the second quarter, got it popped back in and played out the game because of course he did. He's the captain. Both teams otherwise came through clean. So what does it all mean? 18 wins, a club record, top 2 locked away, 2 home finals guaranteed, and the minor premiership, just the second in Fremantle's history, is now 1 win away against Melbourne at the MCG on Saturday. Win that or have Sydney lose to St Kilda and it's done. 2 quick things I'm carrying into next week. 1, the slow start is officially a thing now. Longmuir said as much this week. 5 of the last 6 first quarters lost, and they were level at halftime here against a bottom 8 side. It keeps not costing them. One of these weeks against a good side, it will. The MCG is a fine place to fix it. And 2, the good kind of unfinished business. Here's a number that snuck up on me. Gia Amis sits on 48 goals for the season. The flood kept him quiet on Friday, 1 behind. But Josh Treacy, with those 3 on Friday, is also on 48. Both of them level, 2 apiece to get to 50. And so contagious. And no Fremantle player has kicked 50 in a season since Matthew Pavlich in 2012. 14 years, and now there are 2 blokes lining up to break it in the same run home. Picture it. Both of them reaching 50 in the same game at the MCG next week. That does not happen. That is a ridiculous thing to even say out loud. But they've got 3 games. They're both on 48, and a man can dream. That's a milestone worth tuning in for. That's Wharf Talk. Fremantle beat the Bulldogs by boring them into the Optus turf. And honestly, at this time of year, I'll take a boring win every single week. I'm JB. Melbourne next. Minor premiership on the line. Go Freo.
And the harbour crowd is calling from the old port to the oval. We will follow